Hey there, welcome back. So, are you ready to tackle a tougher math word problem with me and make it feel completely easy? If you haven't seen the first part of this video, I lay out 5 foundational steps that us math teachers apply to solving tougher math problems without thinking about it. So be sure to check out that video first if you haven't seen it already. Here we're going to dive into a second word problem, a little tougher, but using those same key 5 elements. Hi, my name's Danielle, and I'm a high school math teacher and have been for over 18 years. Here on this channel, I share my best tips and strategies for high school math students to make math feel zen. So if you're a high school math student, definitely hit subscribe below so you can stay up to date with all the tips and strategies I give, especially since most of them are not taught in the math class, but should be. Okay, so we are going to tackle a tougher word problem together using those 5 key steps that I've outlined in the previous video. I'll definitely go over them, but let's take a look here. Okay, so let's put some problem solving into action. Here is our next level word problem. First step is to just start and get messy. We want to read the question at least twice, if not 3 times over. I tend to do 3 times. So let's start reading together. Your investment club shares its earnings. The president receives half of the money. The vice president gets a quarter of the remainder. So when I read that, I interpret it as the remainder of whatever is left after the president has taken his portion or her portion. Then the secretary gets 1/3 of what is left. Finally, the treasurer and you share what is left equally. Your share is $300. Calculate the investment club's total earnings. Okay, I'm going to hit pause for 1 second. When I first came across this question, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to be completely transparent. I did not know where to start. It's a grade 9 higher level thinking fraction question. But even me as a teacher had to stop and think, okay, this is going to take all of my tools in my math toolbox to figure out. And I just want you to know that because even us math teachers are presented with new problems and are hit with the same feeling as students are when they're facing new word problems. Okay, so now that we've read it once, let's start highlighting what we need to know. So we know the president receives half the money. We know the vice president gets a quarter of whatever's left after that. The secretary gets 1/3 of what's left after that. And the treasurer and you or myself share what's left equally. So we're going to pretty much divide this amount by 2, whatever that is. Okay. My share or our share or your share, however you want to look at it, is $300. Doesn't feel like much, does it? But let's calculate the investment club's total earnings. So if you can draw a chart or brainstorm in some way, then go for it. I'm a very visual learner. It's not always needed to do this. I feel like what I started to do when I first read this question was write down in words to piece together what each person was getting. So, for example, and I can erase this after, the president was going to get one half, one half of whatever the money was, whatever. And I don't know what that money is. So I just called it X, which actually became useful because at the end of the question is usually indicating the last sentence or question is indicating what you're solving for. So calculate the investment club's total earnings. It so happens that in this question, we want to let X represent, I'm going to put rep for short, the total earnings. So then what I have here for the president is an expression stating our president is going to get one half of the total earnings. So we're going to take our total earnings X and divide it by 2. That makes sense. Okay, let's go on and read what the vice president gets. The vice president gets a quarter of the remainder. So I said, okay, vice president, 1/4, and I just put R, 1/4 of the remainder. Let's go off to the side here. How do we find the remainder? So the remainder, I'll write it out. Why not? The remainder is going to be whatever was the total amount. So X was the total amount minus whatever portion the president took. Well, the president took half of it. He or she took half of the total. So when I do this in terms of fraction, this is like saying 2 over 2x minus x over 2, or 1x over 2. So what's the remainder? What's left? That's just going to be 1x over 2, or x over 2, which makes sense. I know this is simplistic when you think about it, but a half x plus a half x is going to give us the final, or the full amount, x. Okay, so then that means, what does that mean? What does that mean for our vice president? We get 1/4 of the remainder. We just said the remainder was x over 2. So if I simplify that, 1 times x is x, and 4 times 2 is 8. So the vice president gets 8x over 8 of the total, or 1/8 of the total. Okay, the next part of the question says the secretary gets 1/3 of what's left after that. I think I'm going to switch colors here, you guys. Let's go for a different color to talk about the secretary's remainder. So over here, I'm going to say a new remainder for the secretary. And we were told, let's see, I already forgot. The secretary gets 1/3 of what's left. What's left? Okay, hold on a second. We originally had X. Then the president took half of that. And now the vice president is taking 1/8 of that. So the remainder, we're going to have to find a common denominator here. I'm going to make it 8, is 8x over 8. If I make this an 8, that means I multiplied it by 4. So the top is now 4x. And this can just stay as x over 8. So what is 8 take away 4 take away 1x? It's going to be 3x over 8. So the remainder, whatever's left after the president and vice president took their share, is 3/8 of x. Okay, so come back to the question. The secretary gets 1/3 of what's left. So the secretary, I'll put it down here, is going to get 1/3 of what's left. We said down here, what's left? 3/8 of x. If we cross out the 3's and simplify, this becomes 1 and 1. So we're just going to get x over 8. So the secretary's portion is 1/8 of x. Now, finally, the treasurer and you. We share what's left equally. Okay, we need to go for another color here because we need to get another remainder. What is left after these people all take their share? So a new remainder. What's the remaining piece for us? We are going to take the full amount, x, minus out the president's portion, minus out the secretary's portion, which was x over 8, or sorry, the vice president's portion, which was x over 8, and then minus out the secretary's portion. Sorry. Yes, x over 8 and x over 8. I'm just double checking my work. We have to do that sometimes. Very good. Okay. And so since I've done that properly, I could put another x over 8. So this is the total earnings minusing the president's portion, minusing the vice president's portion, and minusing the secretary's portion. Feels like there's going to be hardly anything left for us. Then we find common denominator. So 8 over 8x minus 4x over 8 minus, this can just stay because the denominator is 8, and this can just stay because the denominator is 8. So 8 take away 4 is 4, minus 1 is 3, minus 1 is 2. So 2x over 8 is left. Or if we simplify that, because we are smart and recognize it can be simplified, this is x over 4 because this can reduce to 1 and 4. All right, so the treasurer and myself, or you, only have this much left over to share. We have to split it equally amongst ourselves. So that means that me and the treasurer are going to be x over 4, that's the remainder of what's left, divided by 2. X over 4 times, we have to take the reciprocal, 1 over 2. So we get x over 8 individually. So that's going to be my portion. And the portion, I can spell, and the treasurer is going to get the same, x over 8. Now, come back to the question. We formulated an answer, but are we there yet? Always come back to see if you've answered the question. It says calculate the investment club's total earnings. I didn't actually calculate that. They told us that I made 300 or we made I $300. So if my portion is X over 8, let's jazz it up with another color here. Let's go green. Green for money. The total earnings then can be found because we know that I made $300 and my portion is X over 8. X is the total earnings. So if I cross multiply this and get 2,400, that's what X is equal to. So therefore, total earnings is $2,400. And of course, you're going to be a stellar math student and put that concluding statement in there. So I hope you found that word problem doable after we completed it together. And comment below on the tips and tricks you're going to use in your next math word problem. Can't wait to see you in the next video.